The smell of grilled burgers filled the air as I stood by the grill, flipping patties and chatting with the neighbors. It was one of those perfect Saturday afternoons where everyone in the neighborhood seemed to migrate to our backyard for an impromptu barbecue. The beer was cold, the conversation was flowing, and for once I was actually enjoying myself. My wife was holding court near the patio table, gesturing dramatically with her third glass of wine. She always got more animated after a few drinks, and today was no exception. I could hear her voice carrying over the crowd, but I wasn't really paying attention until I heard my name. Seriously, though, who wants to trade husbands? Mine comes with low maintenance and absolutely no ambition whatsoever. The conversation around the grill stopped. I felt every eye turn toward me, then back to her. The uncomfortable silence stretched for what felt like an eternity. I could see some of the guys looking down at their beers, clearly embarrassed for me. But then Linda, our recently divorced neighbor from 2 houses down, stepped forward with a smile. You know what? I'll take him. My wife's laugh caught her throat. The smug expression on her face started to waver as Linda continued. When should I pick him up? The silence that followed was deafening. I watched my wife's face cycle through confusion, then shock, then something that looked like panic. She clearly hadn't expected anyone to actually respond to her joke. I set down my spatula and walked over to where my wife was standing. Every conversation in the yard had stopped. All eyes were on us. Well, honey, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear, I really appreciate you doing the marketing for me. Should I start packing now? Or do you want to help me load the truck? My wife's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. The color drained from her face as the reality of what just happened hit her. It was just a joke, she stammered. Was it? I asked, crossing my arms. Because Linda here seems pretty serious. And honestly, after that glowing recommendation you just gave me, I'm starting to think she might be getting a pretty good deal. Linda stepped closer, clearly enjoying the show. I mean, low maintenance sounds perfect to me. And ambition is overrated anyway. I prefer a man who knows how to enjoy life. The other neighbors were trying not to stare, but failing miserably. I could see some of the wives whispering to each other, and a couple of the guys were actually smirking. My wife tried to laugh it off. Come on, everyone knows I was kidding around. Do they? I asked, genuinely curious. Because from where I'm standing, it sounded like you were trying to get rid of me. And now that someone's actually interested, you seem pretty upset about it. She grabbed my arm, her grip tight enough to leave marks. Can we talk privately? I gently pulled my arm free. Why? You didn't seem to mind discussing my shortcomings in front of everyone a minute ago. What's changed? Linda was still standing there, arms crossed, watching the whole thing unfold with obvious amusement. The offer still stands, she said sweetly. I'm not going anywhere. My wife shot her a look that could have melted steel. This is between me and my husband. Actually, I said, you made it everyone's business when you decided to auction me off at a neighborhood barbecue. So I think Linda has as much right to be part of this conversation as anyone else here. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. I could see my wife calculating, trying to figure out how to regain control of the situation. But the damage was already done. She'd humiliated me in front of our neighbors, and now everyone was watching her scramble to undo it. Fine, she said through gritted teeth. We'll discuss this at home. Will we? I asked, because it seems like you've already made your position pretty clear. Low maintenance, no ambition. That was your professional assessment of your husband, delivered to a crowd of our neighbors. So what exactly is there left to discuss? She was getting desperate now. I could see it in her eyes. You're being ridiculous. You know I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it then? I asked. Please, enlighten us. Because I'm pretty sure everyone here heard the same thing I did. Linda chimed in again. I heard a woman who doesn't appreciate what she has. And frankly, that's her loss. My wife whirled on her. Nobody asked you. Actually, I said, you literally asked everyone here. You asked who wanted to trade husbands. Linda answered. Now you're upset because someone actually took you up on your offer. The party had completely stopped now. Everyone was watching this drama unfold like it was their personal soap opera, and honestly, I was enjoying every second of it. My wife realized she was losing this battle badly. We're going inside. Now, are we? I asked, because I'm actually having a pretty good time out here. The company's better than I expected. Linda smiled at that. Much better company. My wife's face was turning red now, and not from the wine. She was furious, but more than that, she was humiliated. And for the first time in years, I didn't care. Choose, she said, her voice low and firm. Them or me. I looked around at the neighbors, then back at Linda, then finally at my wife. The woman who had just tried to publicly humiliate me in front of everyone we knew. That's an interesting ultimatum, I said, especially coming from someone who just spent the last 5 minutes explaining to everyone why I'm not worth keeping. The look on her face told me everything I needed to know. She'd pushed too far this time, and we both knew it. But I wasn't done yet. After the last neighbor left our backyard, we cleaned up in complete silence. I could feel my wife's eyes burning into me as I stacked chairs and collected empty beer bottles. But I didn't acknowledge her. Let her stew in it. As soon as we walked back inside the house, she erupted. What on earth was that back there? I hung up my keys and turned to face her. That was you learning what happens when you try to humiliate your husband in public. It was a joke. Was it funny? I asked. Because nobody was laughing. Well, except Linda. She seemed to find it hilarious. Her face twisted with anger. Don't you dare bring up that opportunistic neighbor. She was just trying to cause problems. Problems? I laughed. She was the only honest person there. You offered to trade me away like a used car, and she said she'd take me. What's the problem with that? The problem is that you played along with it. You embarrassed me in front of our neighbors. I stared at her for a long moment, letting that sink in. I embarrassed you? Let me get this straight. You stand up in front of everyone we know and tell them that your husband has no ambition and isn't worth keeping, but I'm the one who embarrassed you. She opened her mouth to respond, but I wasn't finished. You want to know what's really embarrassing? Living with someone for 8 years who thinks so little of me that she'd make jokes about trading me away. You want to know what's embarrassing? Watching my wife drink too much wine and turn me into entertainment for the neighborhood. I was just being social. No, I said, my voice getting harder. You were being cruel. And the only reason you're upset now is because it backfired. You expected me to stand there and take it, right? Maybe laugh along and play the part of the bumbling husband who doesn't know any better. Her silence told me everything. Here's what you didn't count on, I continued. Someone actually wanted what you were so eager to get rid of. And now you're panicking because you realized you might actually lose it. You're my husband. Am I? Because 5 minutes ago you were trying to give me away to anyone who'd take me. She was pacing now, her hands shaking. You can't be serious about this. Linda is just a desperate divorced woman looking for attention. And what are you? The question hung in the air between us. She stopped pacing and stared at me. What's that supposed to mean? It means maybe you should look in the mirror before you start throwing stones. You think Linda's desperate? You're the one married to a man you apparently have no respect for. You're the one who stays with someone you think has no ambition. What does that make you? Her face went pale. That's different. How? Because we're married. We have a life together. Do we? I asked. Because from where I'm standing, we have a house together and shared bills. But a life? A real partnership? I'm not seeing it. I walked to the refrigerator and grabbed a beer. You want to know what I realized today? I've been making excuses for your behavior for years. Telling myself you were just having a bad day, or you'd had too much to drink, or you were stressed about work. I don't know what you're talking about. Of course you don't. You've been disrespecting me for so long that you think it's normal. The little comments, the eye rolls when I'm talking, the way you dismiss everything I say. I thought that was just marriage. I took a long drink of my beer and looked at her, really looked at her. But watching Linda's reaction today made me realize something. A woman who actually appreciates a man doesn't try to trade him away at a barbecue. So what? You're going to run off with a divorced neighbor. I'm going to stop accepting disrespect from my wife. The words hit her like a physical blow. She actually stepped backward. What does that mean? It means the days of you treating me like I'm some kind of burden in your life are over. It means you don't get to make jokes about my ambition or my worth, especially not in front of other people. And if I don't agree to your terms? I set down my beer and looked her straight in the eye. Then Linda's offer is still on the table. The color drained from her face completely. You wouldn't. Try me. We stared at each other for what felt like forever. I could see her mind racing, trying to figure out how to regain control of the situation. But for the first time in our marriage, I wasn't backing down. This is ridiculous, she finally said. You're overreacting to a thoughtless joke. Am I? Then let me ask you something. When was the last time you said something genuinely nice about me? When was the last time you built me up instead of tearing me down? She opened her mouth, then closed it again. That's what I thought. My phone buzzed with a text message. I pulled it out and couldn't help but smile when I saw Linda's name on the screen. Hope you're okay after all that drama. If you need someone to talk to, I'm right next door. My wife noticed my expression change. Who is that? Linda. Delete it. I looked at her like she'd lost her mind. Excuse me. Delete the message. Block her number. I don't want her contacting you. And why would I do that? Because I'm your wife. The same wife who tried to give me away 2 hours ago. She was getting frantic now. That was different. I was just talking. And now Linda's just talking. What's the difference? The difference is that she's trying to take my husband. I laughed. It wasn't a pleasant sound. Take? You can't take something that's being given away for free. The truth of that statement hit her like a truck. She sat down heavily on the couch, all the fight going out of her. This isn't how tonight was supposed to go. How was it supposed to go? I asked. You humiliate me. Everyone laughs, and then we come home and pretend it never happened. She didn't answer, which was answer enough. I finished my beer and headed toward the stairs. I'm going to bed. We can continue this conversation tomorrow when you've had time to think about what you really want. Where are you going? To the guest room. You can't be serious. I turned back to her one last time. Completely serious. Good night. As I climbed the stairs, I could hear her starting to cry. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel the urge to go back and comfort her. Things were about to change around here. I woke up the next morning to the smell of bacon and eggs. When I walked downstairs, my wife was standing at the stove in her best apron, hair done, makeup perfect, the whole domestic goddess routine. Good morning, honey, she said in a voice so sweet it could cause diabetes. I made your favorite breakfast. I poured myself a cup of coffee and sat down at the kitchen table. What's the occasion? Can a wife make breakfast for her husband? This wife can. The question is whether she will without an ulterior motive. Her smile faltered slightly. I thought we could talk about yesterday. Clear the air. The air seems pretty clear to me. She set a plate in front of me loaded with bacon, eggs, and toast. All my favorites, perfectly prepared. Look, maybe I had a little too much wine yesterday. Maybe I said some things I didn't mean. Maybe. Okay, I definitely said some things I didn't mean. But that's not who I really am. You know that. I took a bite of the eggs and looked at her. Actually, I think that's exactly who you are. Yesterday just happened to be the first time you said it out loud in front of witnesses. Her face flushed. That's not fair, isn't it? When was the last time you bragged about me to your friends? When was the last time you told someone how lucky you were to be married to me? She was quiet for a long moment. I don't really think about things like that. No, you don't. But you definitely think about all the ways I disappoint you. Those you have no problem sharing. Before she could respond, the doorbell rang. Through the front window, I could see Linda standing on our porch holding a coffee mug. My wife's entire body tensed. Don't answer it. I stood up and walked to the front door. Morning, Linda. Morning. Sorry to bother you, but I ran out of sugar and was hoping I could borrow some. The store doesn't open for another hour. Of course. Come on in. My wife appeared in the doorway like a guard dog, still wearing that fake smile. Oh, Linda, how unexpected. Hope I'm not interrupting anything, Linda said, though her tone suggested she didn't really care if she was. Not at all, I said, just having breakfast. Would you like some coffee? That would be lovely. Thank you. My wife's smile got even more strained. Actually, we were just having a private conversation. Were we? I asked, because I thought we were done talking. Linda looked between us with obvious amusement. Am I missing something here? Not really, I said, pouring her a cup of coffee. My wife was just explaining to me how yesterday was all a big misunderstanding. Oh, the barbecue thing. Linda waved her hand dismissively. Honey, there was no misunderstanding on my part. I meant every word I said. My wife's coffee mug hit the counter with more force than necessary. I think there's been enough discussion about yesterday. Has there? Linda asked, because I've been thinking about it all night. And I have to say, the more I think about it, the more I like the idea. What idea? My wife asked through gritted teeth. Trading husbands. Or in this case, since I don't have one to trade, just taking yours off your hands. The silence in the kitchen was deafening. My wife looked like she was about to explode, and Linda was clearly enjoying every second of it. That's not happening, my wife said finally. Why not? Linda asked innocently. Yesterday you made it sound like he was more trouble than he was worth. Low maintenance and no ambition, I think were your exact words. That was a joke. Was it funny? Linda asked, using my exact words from the night before. I couldn't help but smile at that. That's what I asked her. And what did she say? She's still working on an answer. My wife slammed her hand on the counter. Stop talking about me like I'm not here. Sorry, I said. We're being rude. Linda, my wife was just telling me how she didn't mean what she said yesterday. Apparently, it was all the wine talking. Ah, Linda nodded sagely. In vino veritas. What? It's Latin, I explained. In wine, there is truth. My wife's face went from red to purple. Are you two ganging up on me now? Nobody's ganging up on anyone, Linda said calmly. I'm just saying that alcohol doesn't create thoughts. It just removes the filter that usually keeps us from expressing them. That's ridiculous. Is it? I asked. Because the version of you from yesterday and the sober version of you seem to have the same opinion about my lack of ambition. I never said that. Yesterday, in front of 20 people, you literally said those exact words. She was getting desperate now. Fine. Maybe I think you could be more ambitious. Is that such a crime? Most wives want their husbands to strive for more. More what? Linda asked. More success, more money, more drive. And what makes you think he doesn't have those things? Linda pressed. My wife gestured wildly. Look around. We're living in a middle-class neighborhood in a middle-class house with middle-class everything. So we could have more. He could push harder, work longer, make more money. Instead, he's content to just exist. I set down my coffee cup and looked at her. And there it is. The real truth. What truth? You're embarrassed by our life. You're embarrassed by me. That's not what I said. It's exactly what you said. You just used different words. Linda was watching this exchange like it was the most fascinating thing she'd ever seen. Can I ask you something? She said to my wife. What? What exactly do you contribute to this household? My wife's mouth fell open. Excuse me. It's a simple question. You're criticizing your husband for not being ambitious enough, not making enough money, not pushing hard enough. So what do you bring to the table? I'm his wife. That's not a contribution. That's a title. The room went dead silent. I could practically see the gears turning in my wife's head as she tried to come up with an answer. I take care of the house, she said finally. Do you work? Linda asked. I'm between jobs right now. How long have you been between jobs? My wife looked at me desperately, as if I was going to rescue her from this conversation. But I was curious to hear her answer, too. A few months. Try 18 months, I said quietly. Linda raised her eyebrows. 18 months, and you're criticizing him for lack of ambition. That's different. How? Because I'm looking for the right opportunity. For 18 months. My wife was completely flustered now. This is none of your business. You made it my business yesterday when you offered to trade him to me. I stood up and walked to the window. Outside, I could see some of our neighbors working in their yards, living their normal Sunday morning lives. Inside, my marriage was falling apart, and honestly, I was okay with that. You know what I realized last night? I said, not turning around. I've been apologizing for who I am for years, making excuses for why I'm not rich enough, successful enough, ambitious enough for you. That's not true. I turned back to face them. Isn't it? How many times have you told me I should ask for a promotion? How many times have you suggested I look for a better job? How many times have you made it clear that what I do isn't good enough? She didn't answer. But here's the thing. I like my job. I'm good at it. It pays well enough for us to live comfortably. And most importantly, it gives me time to actually enjoy my life instead of spending every waking moment chasing some impossible standard of success. Linda smiled. Sounds perfect to me. My wife shot her a look that could have caused serious harm. Nobody asked you. Actually, I said, you did. Yesterday, in front of everyone. And my answer hasn't changed, Linda added. When do you want to pick him up? The question hung in the air like smoke from a fire. My wife's face cycled through about 6 different emotions before settling on pure rage. Get out, she said to Linda, her voice shaking. Get out of my house right now. Your house. Linda asked, raising an eyebrow. Funny, I thought it belonged to both of you. Though given that you've been unemployed for 18 months, I'm guessing his name is the only one on the mortgage. I couldn't help but smirk at that. She was right, of course. The house was in my name only. We bought it before we got married, and I'd never bothered to add her to the deed. That's it, my wife snapped. I want her out. Now. Why? I asked calmly. She came over to borrow sugar, remember? We haven't given her any yet. Don't play games with me. I'm not playing games. I'm just wondering why you're so upset about a simple conversation. Linda stood up and smoothed down her dress. Maybe I should go. I can see I'm making someone uncomfortable. No, I said firmly. You're not making me uncomfortable at all. Stay as long as you like. My wife turned on me. Are you out of your mind? Actually, I think I'm finally thinking clearly for the first time in years. She's trying to take you from me. How could she take something you don't want? I never said I didn't want you. You didn't have to say it. You demonstrated it in front of half the neighborhood. Linda settled back in her chair and took another sip of coffee. This is better than cable TV. Be quiet, my wife snapped. That's no way to talk to a guest, I said. Guest? She's not a guest. She's a troublemaker. A troublemaker? I laughed. What home? You mean the one where you spend your days complaining about your husband to anyone who'll listen? The one where you've been unemployed for over a year while criticizing my work ethic? That home. She was sputtering now, desperate to regain control. We can work through this. We can go to counseling. Can we? Because yesterday you made it pretty clear that I'm not worth the effort. I was under the influence. And now you're sober. And you're still trying to tell me what to do and who I can talk to. Linda cleared her throat. If I may interrupt this discussion, I have a question. What? My wife demanded. Do you even like your husband? The question was so simple, so direct that it stopped everyone in their tracks. My wife opened her mouth to answer, then closed it again. Of course I do. He's my husband. That's not what I asked. I asked if you like him. As a person, do you enjoy his company? Do you look forward to seeing him when he comes home from work? Do you laugh at his jokes? Do you find him interesting? The silence stretched on and on. My wife looked like she was struggling to find an answer to what should have been the easiest question in the world. See, that's the difference between us, Linda continued. I've had exactly 3 conversations with your husband, and I already know the answers to all those questions. Yes, 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 and yes. You don't know him like I do. Maybe that's the problem, Linda said gently. Maybe you know him too well. Maybe you've forgotten to see the good things because you're so focused on what you think is wrong. I stood up and walked to the kitchen sink, rinsing out my coffee cup. You know what? I think this conversation has run its course. Good, my wife said. Linda can leave, and we can get back to normal. That's not what I meant. She froze. What did you mean? I mean, I'm done pretending this marriage is working. I'm done accepting criticism from someone who brings nothing to the table. And I'm definitely done being treated like I'm some kind of consolation prize. You can't be serious. Completely serious. Linda finished her coffee and stood up. Well, this has been enlightening. Thank you for the coffee and for the entertainment. Wait, I said. You came over for sugar, remember? Oh, right. She smiled. Though honestly, this conversation has been much sweeter than anything I could have baked. I went to the pantry and pulled out a bag of sugar, pouring some into a container for her. There you go. Thank you. You're very kind. My wife was watching this exchange like we were conducting some kind of secret negotiation. What's really going on here? Nothing's going on, I said. I'm helping a neighbor. That's not acceptable. Linda turned to my wife with a look of genuine curiosity. Can I ask you something else? What now? Why do you want to keep a husband you clearly don't respect? Because he's mine. That's not a reason. That's possessiveness. I love him. Do you? Because love usually involves respect, admiration, support. I haven't seen any of those things from you. My wife was getting frantic. You don't understand our relationship. I understand enough. I understand that he works hard to support both of you while you sit at home, criticizing everything he does. I understand that you're so unhappy with your life that you take it out on the one person who's supposed to be your partner. That's not fair, isn't it? I asked. When was the last time you said thank you for anything I do? When was the last time you acknowledged that I work 40 hours a week to pay for this house, the car you drive, the food you eat? I shouldn't have to thank you for doing what you're supposed to do. And there it is, Linda said quietly. You think he owes you everything and you owe him nothing. The truth of that statement hit like a physical blow. My wife actually stepped backward. That's not. I don't. Yes, you do, I said. You think being married to you is reward enough for everything I provide. You think I should be grateful that you tolerate my presence in your life. Stop twisting my words. I'm not twisting anything. I'm just finally hearing them clearly. Pulled out a bag of sugar, pouring some into a container for her. There you go. Thank you. You're very kind. My wife was watching this exchange like we were conducting some kind of secret negotiation. What's really going on here? Nothing's going on, I said. I'm helping a neighbor. That's not acceptable. Linda turned to my wife with a look of genuine curiosity. Can I ask you something else? What now? Why do you want to keep a husband you clearly don't respect? Because he's mine. That's not a reason. That's possessiveness. I love him. Do you? Because love usually involves respect, admiration, support. I haven't seen any of those things from you. My wife was getting frantic. You don't understand our relationship. I understand enough. I understand that he works hard to support both of you while you sit at home, criticizing everything he does. I understand that you're so unhappy with your life that you take it out on the one person who's supposed to be your partner. That's not fair, isn't it? I asked. When was the last time you said thank you for anything I do? When was the last time you acknowledged that I work 40 hours a week to pay for this house, the car you drive, the food you eat? I shouldn't have to thank you for doing what you're supposed to do. And there it is, Linda said quietly. You think he owes you everything and you owe him nothing. The truth of that statement hit like a physical blow. My wife actually stepped backward. That's not. I don't. Yes, you do, I said. You think being married to you is reward enough for everything I provide. You think I should be grateful that you tolerate my presence in your life. Stop twisting my words. I'm not twisting anything. I'm just finally hearing them clearly. Linda headed toward the front door. I should really go now, but thank you again for the coffee and the sugar. Anytime, I said, following her to the door. I mean that, she said quietly, so only I could hear. Anytime. I nodded. I know. After she left, I turned back to find my wife standing in the hallway, tears streaming down her face. How could you do this to me? Do what? Humiliate me. Show interest in another woman in front of me. Act like our marriage means nothing. Our marriage. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. What marriage? You mean the arrangement where I work and pay bills while you complain about everything I do? That marriage. We took vows. Yes, we did. For better or worse, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish. Tell me, which of those vows have you been keeping lately? She didn't have an answer for that either. I'm going out, I said, grabbing my car keys. Where? Does it matter? According to you, I have no ambition anyway. Maybe I'll just drive around aimlessly like the failure you married. Don't leave. We need to talk about this. No, we don't. We've talked enough. Now I need to think. As I walked out the door, I could hear her crying. And for the second time in 2 days, I didn't feel the urge to turn around and comfort her. Some bridges, once burned, can't be rebuilt. I drove around for 2 hours, thinking about everything that had happened. When I got back home, my wife was waiting in the living room with red eyes and a notebook in her hands. I wrote down all the things I appreciate about you, she said, holding up the notebook like it was some kind of peace offering. I sat down across from her. Let me guess. Good provider, faithful husband, reliable. Her face fell. How did you know? Because those aren't things you appreciate about me as a person. Those are just functions I perform. That's not true. Read me the list. She looked down at the notebook. You work hard. You pay the bills. You're dependable. You never cheat. You help around the house. Stop. I held up my hand. Do you hear yourself? Everything on that list is about what I do for you, not who I am. I don't understand the difference. I know you don't, and that's the problem. She closed the notebook and leaned forward. Tell me what you wanted to say. I don't want you to say anything. Words are cheap. You've proven that. Then what do you want? I want you to pack your things. The color drained from her face. What? You heard me. Pack your things and leave. You can't be serious. This is my home. No, it's my home. Your name isn't on the deed, remember? And since you don't work, you don't contribute to the mortgage. She was shaking now. You can't just throw me out. Actually, I can. And I am. But where will I go? That's not my problem anymore. She started crying again, harder this time. Please don't do this. I'm sorry. I'll change. No, you won't. You'll be good for a week, maybe 2, and then you'll go right back to treating me poorly. I'm done with that cycle. I love you. No, you don't. You love what I provide. You love having someone to blame for your unhappiness. But you don't love me. My phone buzzed with a text from Linda. Everything okay? So you drive off earlier. My wife noticed me checking my phone. Is that her? Yeah. Delete it. No. I'm your wife. I should come first. I looked at her for a long moment. You should. But you made it clear yesterday that you don't want to be first. You want to be right. You want to be in control. You want to be the victim. I stood up and headed for the stairs. You have until tomorrow morning to pack your things. And then what? And then you figure out how to be an adult for the first time in 18 months. This is all her fault. She put these ideas in your head. I stopped and turned around. Linda didn't put anything in my head. She just pointed out what was already there. The difference is she sees value in what you've been throwing away. So you're choosing her over me? I'm choosing respect over disrespect. I'm choosing appreciation over criticism. I'm choosing someone who actually wants me around. I want you around. Only because you're afraid of being alone. That's not the same thing. I went upstairs and started pulling out suitcases from the closet. When she saw me coming back down with them, she completely broke down. Please, we can work this out. We can go to counseling. 8 years too late for that conversation. I'll get a job. I'll contribute more. You should get a job, but not for me. For you. I set the suitcases down in front of her. Start packing. I won't do it. Then I'll do it for you. I went back upstairs and started placing her clothes into the suitcases. She followed me, grabbing things out of my hands. Stop. You can't do this. Watch me. What about our vows? What about for better or worse? This is the worst. And I've had enough of it. It took me 20 minutes to pack everything that belonged to her. When I brought the last suitcase downstairs, she was sitting on the couch sobbing. Where am I supposed to go? Your sister's, your mother's, a hotel. I don't care. I don't have any money. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you spent 18 months criticizing the person who pays for everything. She looked up at me with desperate eyes. What if I promise to change? What if I prove to you that I can be better? I'm not interested in your promises anymore. I'm interested in my peace of mind. I carried her suitcases to the front door. You have until noon tomorrow to get the rest of your things. After that, I'm changing the locks. You're really going to throw away 8 years of marriage? I'm not throwing anything away. You already did that when you decided I wasn't worth keeping. As I opened the front door, Linda was walking up her driveway. She saw the suitcases and understood immediately. Need any help? She called out. My wife shot her a look of pure anger. This is all your fault. No, I said firmly. This is your fault. Linda just had the courage to say what everyone else was thinking. My wife grabbed one of the suitcases and stormed toward her car. You'll regret this. The only thing I regret is waiting this long. After she drove away, Linda walked over. You okay? Better than I've been in years. Good for you. That took guts. No, it took self-respect. I just forgot I had any for a while. She smiled. Well, if you need anything, you know where to find me. I might take you up on that. I hope you do. As I watched her walk back to her house, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope. 3 weeks later, I was grilling burgers in my backyard again, but this time Linda was helping me prepare the salad, and the atmosphere was completely different. No tension, no walking on eggshells, just two people enjoying each other's company. How's the neighborhood gossip mill treating you? She asked, tossing the salad. Mixed reviews, I laughed. Half the wives think I'm a hero, the other half think I'm a villain. And the husbands? Let's just say I've gotten a lot of knowing nods and requests for advice. My ex-wife had come by twice in the past 3 weeks. The first time to get more of her things, the second time to beg me to reconsider. Both times, I'd remained firm. The divorce papers were already filed. Any regrets? Linda asked. Only that I waited so long. She smiled and kissed my cheek. Well, I'm certainly not complaining about the timing. The doorbell rang, and I went to answer it. Through the peephole, I could see my ex-wife standing on the porch. She looked terrible. Hair unwashed, eyes red, wearing the same clothes she'd had on 2 days ago. I opened the door, but didn't invite her in. What do you want? I got a job, she said desperately. At Target. I start Monday. See, I'm trying to change. Good for you. You should have done that 18 months ago. Please, can we just talk? Without her around, I could hear Linda moving around in the kitchen, deliberately giving us privacy. There's nothing to talk about. I made a mistake. One thoughtless joke at a barbecue, and you're willing to throw away our entire marriage. It wasn't one joke. It was 8 years of accumulated disrespect. The barbecue was just the final straw. I'll do anything. I'll sign a prenup for our next marriage. I almost laughed at that. There isn't going to be a next marriage. Because of her, because of you. Her face crumpled. I heard you're dating her now. We're getting to know each other. She's not better than me. Actually, she is. She appreciates what she has instead of constantly complaining about what she doesn't have. I can appreciate you, too. No, you can't. Because deep down, you still think I'm not good enough. You're not here because you miss me. You're here because you're scared of being alone. Tears were streaming down her face now. That's not true. Prove it. Name one thing about me that you genuinely love that has nothing to do with what I can provide for you. She opened her mouth, then closed it. We stood there in silence for almost a minute while she struggled to come up with an answer. That's what I thought. I said finally. Take care of yourself. I started to close the door, but she put her hand against it. The neighbors all dislike me now, she said quietly. That's not my problem. They think I'm a terrible person. Maybe you should ask yourself why. I never meant for things to turn out like this. Yes, you did. You just never thought there would be consequences. I gently moved her hand away from the door. Goodbye. After I closed the door, I stood there for a moment listening to her cry on the other side. Then I heard her car start and drive away. Linda appeared in the doorway to the kitchen. You okay? Perfect. Liar. That couldn't have been easy. It was easier than I expected. I think I'm finally done feeling guilty for wanting to be happy. She walked over and wrapped her arms around me. Good. Because you deserve to be happy. So do you. I am happy. For the first time in years, I'm with someone who actually wants me around. I kissed her forehead. Always. We went back to the kitchen to finish preparing dinner. As we worked side by side, I realized this was what a real partnership felt like. Mutual respect, shared responsibilities, genuine affection. You know what's funny? Linda said as she put the finishing touches on the salad. What? She did me the biggest favor in the world at that barbecue. How so? She gift-wrapped the perfect man and handed him to me. All I had to do was say yes. I laughed. Well, when you put it that way, maybe I should thank her. Maybe we both should. Later that evening, as we sat on the back porch watching the sunset, Linda got a text message. Who's that? I asked. My ex-husband. He heard about us through the grapevine. What does he want? She showed me the message. Heard you upgraded. Good for you. Upgraded. From a man who took me for granted to one who appreciates me. Yeah, I'd call that an upgrade. I pulled her closer. The feeling is mutual. You know what the best part is? What? I don't have to pretend to be grateful for basic human decency anymore. And you don't have to apologize for being exactly who you are. As the sun set behind the trees, I realized that sometimes the best things in life come from the worst situations. My ex-wife's cruelty had freed me to find something real. And Linda was right. She had definitely upgraded. So had I. Our story has come to an end. If you've made it this far, how about subscribing to our channel? It helps us immensely. I've selected 2 other videos for you that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Feel free to click on them. I'll be waiting for you in the next story. See you soon.